Welcome to part 3 on bullying prevention. In this section, I want to let you know about the Oklahoma bullying prevention laws that are out there. One of the first that was passed was the School Bullying Prevention Act. It was effective November 1st, 2002. And in short, this law said that each school district would adopt a policy prohibiting harassment, intimidation, and bullying by students and shall address prevention of and education about such behavior. It also referred back to the Safe School Law of October 1996, which developed a safe school in each school site community. Originally, the Safe School Committee was to be made up of 6 people, 2 parents, 2 teachers, and 2 students from that school site. And it did say that safe school committees were to study and make recommendations to the site principal regarding student harassment, bullying, and intimidation, to consider professional development needs of the faculty and staff to implement methods to decrease this harassment. It also stated that safe school committees shall review methods to encourage the involvement of community and students, the development of problem-solving teams that include counselors and/or school psychologists, and that the Safe School Committee would review research-based prevention programs. The School Bullying Prevention Act also stated the State Department of Education would compile and distribute a list of research-based programs for bullying prevention education K through 12. You can see the State Department of Education website at the Safe and Drug-Free Schools page and see a list of research-based bullying prevention programs K through 12. There was an earlier law passed, the Oklahoma Telecommunications Law, which was House Bill 1804 during the 2005 legislative session. This law stated it was unlawful for any person by means of telecommunication with intent to terrify, harass, intimidate, threaten to inflict injury or physical harm, or harm to any person or property of that person. It also stated with intent to put the party in fear of physical harm or death. Identity is not disclosed to the person making the call with intent to annoy, abuse, threaten, or harass any person at that called number. It included communication initiated by electronic mail, instant messaging, a network, fax machine, or communication made to a pager. Any person convicted would be found guilty of a misdemeanor, and a second conviction, a person would be found as a felon. The most recent act is the Oklahoma School Security Act, which was Senate Bill 1941 in the 2008 legislative session. It became effective November 1st, 2008. Each school district was to amend their policy to add electronic communication and threatening behavior. This policy would include a procedure to investigate all reported acts of bullying and harassment by the school. It also added an additional member to each site's Safe School Committee who is a school official and part of the school's investigation team. In this law, Oklahoma School Security Act, it gave a definition of threatening behavior and electronic communication. The law prohibits threatening behavior, harassment, intimidation, of bullying at school and by electronic communication, whether or not such communication originated at school or with school equipment, if that communication was specifically directed at students or school personnel and concerned harassment, intimidation, or bullying. Electronic communication was defined as a means of communication of any written, verbal, or pictorial information by means of an electronic device. And threatening behavior was defined as any pattern of behavior or isolated action, whether or not it was directed at another person, that a reasonable person would believe indicates a potential for future harm to students, school, personnel, or school property. Recent discussions are being held in the legislative session as we speak to enhance bullying policy and perhaps require annual professional education. What can schools do? Obviously, update your bullying and cyberbullying prevention policy, include cell phone use, distribute this policy to all parents and students, conduct a student survey, offer a safe way to report incidents, Safe Call hotline is 1-877 Safe Call, extension OK1 or extension 651, a 24-hour-a-day toll-free hotline that any student, parent, staff, or concerned community member can call and report an unsafe condition, a threat, or dangerous situation that they want the school to know about. The call is untraceable. Schools need to enforce policy with consistent consequences and keep parents informed. All school staff need to know what is our district's policy on cell phone use. Does your district have an internet or social networking policy? How are your students and staff made aware of this and the consequences for misuse? Are you required as a staff member to document and report cyberbullying or other computer misuse? If so, what document would you use? We have placed sample harassment report forms at the State Department of Education website for school and staff to use. We have also added a Are You Being Harassed report form for students to use to complete and turn into a school staff or school authority figure. What can adults do? We talked about keeping your computer in an easily viewable place and talking to your children about their online activity and making sure that the school staff know of online threats or inappropriate emails or online communications that are being sent. You can also talk to targets about what can they do. Number one, you could ask the child to ignore the bully by walking off and acting like you didn't hear or see them. You might say agreeing with the bully, such as, well, you're the shortest kid in the class. Agree with the bully and say, I am the shortest kid in the class. What can I do about it? Sometimes telling a joke or using humor can diffuse the bully. Refusing to fight, telling the bully that it's not worth it, I don't want to get suspended. If I fight at school, I'm in trouble at home. I refuse to fight you no matter what you say or do. Often being friendly to a bully could be a tactic. Bullies may not have many friends or may not be invited to have a friend or to engage in a fun or social occasion, and so this may also disarm the bully. Talking back to a bully might be another endeavor. However, it's strongly suggested this only be done in a one-to-one situation where the bully would not lose face in front of peers, nor would the victim. Stating the fact, I've heard what you're saying, I don't like what you're doing, I'm asking you nicely to stop. Or another tactic is fooling the bully, reminding them that here comes the principal right now, or that my parent is picking me up in 2 minutes, or the school camera is filming us right now. Obviously, we hope any of the targets or children on the receiving end will feel that there's a trusted adult on the school staff and that they could tell someone. If you are talking to students about what to do when they're bullied, I remind them to be firm and clear when they speak. They may have to remove themselves from a situation or go and get an adult. After you've been bullied, report it to the teacher, counselor, school resource officer. Tell your parents or guardians what has happened. If you're scared to report it, go to a school administrator or counselor or invite a friend to go with you. The important thing is for targets to keep on speaking up until someone listens. This is a very difficult thing to do. You should remind them that this takes an act of courage, that they did the right thing, this was showing good character and good citizenship, and that you will follow up with them. Obviously, reminding the target that you are not to blame for what has happened. You did not deserve this type of behavior. Remind the students when you're talking about being bullied and reporting it to say clearly what has happened to you, how often has it happened, who was involved, who might have seen or heard what was happening, where did it happen, and what have you done about it already. Other situations may include advising them to avoid bullying situations such as sitting near the bus driver in the school bus, taking a different route to and from home to school, perhaps getting permission to leave a little earlier or later to avoid controversy or confrontation with a bully on the way home, not bringing expensive items or money to school, making sure you're not alone in the locker or bathroom, taking a different route through the hallways or walk with a teacher or classmate to your next class, and avoiding unsupervised areas at the schools and situations where you are isolated from teachers and classmates. It's important for school staff to take an active role. Notify administrators of when you see or hear of bullying situations. Also, notify your school counselor so the counselor can check both on the bully and on the target. Gather as much information as possible. Document this information. Be aware of what your school policy is so that you can explain it to your students and parents. Enforcing the policy as it's written. Teaching anger management skills, giving clear, consistent messages to your students of your expectations and the school's expectations of them, monitoring suspicious behavior. You can also use short amounts of time to talk about conflict resolution, how to be assertive rather than passive or aggressive, and how to use problem-solving skills. Encourage notification of incidents by your students and staff members and parents so that the school is aware of what's going on and can monitor and investigate the situation. Post the Safe Call Hotline free posters that are made available to you in each classroom and on your campus. Create a support network for youth. It might be a student assistance group meeting with a school counselor. Increasing supervision of what are called hotspot areas with your school campus, including the bus, the playground, the locker room, the cafeteria, even in hallways. Some schools ask the teachers to stand outside their hall door during passing periods so that they can monitor situations. And it is wise for school staff to be aware of our own language and actions that we take with children, as we are role models. If you need to document specific harassment incidences or suspected harassment, note name, age, race, national origin, the sex or disability status of the person, the victim and the harasser, the names of any witnesses, a description of the incident, information on the severity, when and where the incident occurred, the relationship of the incident to other incidents of harassment, the names of the personnel that have been conducting the investigations, what the findings were after the investigation was conducted and interviews held, and what corrective action was taken. This is from the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights and the National Association of Attorneys General. Again, we have included a harassment bullying incident report form with just this data offered on it for use for school staff on our website. It's important for schools to preserve evidence such as covering or concealing graffiti after they have taken a picture of it. Photograph instances of hate-motivated or harassing graffiti for law enforcement to investigate. That is a hate crime. It is against federal law. Any physical evidence should be preserved until the police approve removal or confiscate the device. What should a teacher say when confronting a bullying incident? Here are some examples. Hey kids, what's going on here? Should I be concerned about what I see or hear happening? Do you students need some assistance? Looks like some pretty ugly things are happening too, and you name the target. Hey, I just heard some things that are really inappropriate. You know the rules on rough play here. Looks like, give the person's name, is not having fun here. Are you all upset? You look angry. Come here, please, and call the student by name if possible. I need to talk with you a minute. And you do this with out ear range of potential bystanders or peers. Be careful, people's feelings are not being hurt here. Or, hey, this looks or sounds like bullying or harassment to me. You know our school rules. All of these things can be said to confront or intervene in a bullying incident. It is not calling somebody a name or a bully. It is not putting them down or showing disrespect. There are some dangerous words not to use when intervening in a bullying situation, such as, oh, it's just teasing, no big deal. Oh, the people in our school would never do that. Oh, I know they didn't really mean it. Well, it's your fault you dress so provocatively. Well, you just need to learn to handle these things. Just forget it happened. Or he and she puts his or her arm around everyone. Why can't you learn to accept a compliment? Well, you must have wanted it or you would have told him or her no. Well, that's just how they do things from where he or she is from. It's just a joke, lighten up. Oh, well, boys will be boys, or this is a school tradition. Those are dangerous words to use when intervening. A most important thought is the on-the-spot staff response to bullying incidences. And the quote from the U.S. Department of Education states, the lack of a strong, immediate response by a teacher or administrator who is aware of the harassment may be perceived by a student as approval of the activity or an indication that the student deserved the harassment. So, what important steps should you remember in handling a bullying situation? Number one, intervene immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week. Identify the behavior as bullying behavior without calling someone a bully. Remind all the students of the school bullying prevention policy. Document the incident. Talk separately to the bully and the victim. Please contact parents separately to inform them of what has occurred and what you're doing to investigate the situation. Teachers must intervene even if you're not sure it's bullying. Observe a children's actions, look at their body language, their facial expressions. You may have to stand between or near the victim and the bully to separate them. Clear the area if other students are present. And if necessary, you may need to request additional staff help if needed. If the bully is using physical force or if there's more than one student involved, find another adult to help keep the children safe and to protect yourself. As you intervene, respond calmly and firmly. Bullying, harassment, intimidation will not be tolerated here. Avoid using aggressive behaviors as this could escalate the incident. Avoid name calling. Avoid lecturing. Don't ask children to just work things out for themselves or shake hands and make up. Be sure and give praise and appreciation to the bystanders that were helpful, that were not just standing there, not taking some type of action to intervene. Arrange to meet with each of the people involved separately. Do not talk to them together. Clarify any information from the incident, what occurred, and document it. This may mean taking witnesses' statements, and then keeping your school counselor, principal, and the parents informed. It's important to follow up with the target and the bullying or the bully concerning the behavior and or the potential retaliation. A lot of times parents and students don't receive that follow-up, and therefore they feel like the staff didn't take it seriously or the staff did nothing at all. This is the wrong message to send. Bullies must understand this behavior is unacceptable and will not be tolerated, that you are documenting it, and that you are following school policy. Impose the consequences that are appropriate for the offense that are consistent with your policy. Bullies must accept responsibility for the offense that are consistent with the school policy, so that means they need to understand when you've explained what policy is, that what you just saw or heard is an act of noncompliance to policy. Discuss privately with the bully how they could make amends, whether it's writing an apology, doing something positive for the target. Ask the target first what they would feel most comfortable with. Some may not want any action taken on behalf of the bully. There are other ideas in the attached handout on this website for staff prevention and intervention strategies that we feel would be worthwhile to discuss with your staff or your team of teachers personally, and to make sure it corresponds accordingly with your school policy. This is the end of this section.